2 stacks of cards, bag of tiles, a bunch of candy. Ladies and gentlemen, there are plenty of videos out there that will teach you how to play a game. Watch It Play, John Gets Game, Gaming Rules. They do a fantastic job of teaching you how to play the game. Today, we are going to talk about how to win the game. These are for the people who maybe just finished their first game and they think, I could have done better. I was missing something. And today we're going to tackle a game that is less about the game itself and how it's played, because it is a very simple game, but more about what's going on around the game and outside of the game. So this is under the assumption that you have played the game a couple of times or once, but you've lost and you want to do better. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I teach you how to win Chinatown. Chinatown is the perfect negotiation game, and as such, you will have to perfectly negotiate your way around everyone you know, and sometimes complete strangers. There are 2 moments in existence. There is the moment before you decide to play Chinatown, and there is the moment after you decide to play Chinatown. Every moment before, don't worry about that. We can't control everything. But the moment you know that you're going to be playing Chinatown, gloves are off, because this game starts before the game starts. So what do I mean by that? You may have heard the term, leave your baggage at the door. Well, all of the baggage that you're going to bring into this game is going to come from the entire game night. So if you're playing a little game before, maybe a little bit of villainous or something, you may want to start planting some seeds. You may want to maybe throw the game where you don't necessarily win, because if you win any game before you win Chinatown, people are going to make sure you lose Chinatown. Now this is going to vary in a number of ways. Let's say you're trying to make a deal. Let's say you want to really get this takeout going, but they're going to remember you won the last game. You don't need to win this game. Or you were a bit of a dick earlier. You don't need to win this game. So if you have this game at your game group before the game even starts, before you pop open that box, if you are the host, make sure everybody's lubed up and nice with some food and some drinks. And if you are just a standard regular person, make sure that maybe you are a little complimentary in some of the earlier games, because this game starts before the box even opens. So now that box is open, they are setting up the game. Here is a little bit of mind trickery for you to take control of the situation and get on everyone's good side. Ladies and gentlemen, the candy. You think, oh, I play red in every game. I'm just gonna grab the red and I'm gonna set and let everyone fight for the rest. No, no, no. Take control. Grab all of them. Expect that you might not get the color you want, but start asking, hey, what color would you like? Like purple? Here you go. Who would like to be green? Take a little bit of control. Don't take the color that you want. Offer the colors that everyone else wants. What this is going to do is subtly put in their head that, oh, he's a team player. I can trust him. Then secretly you're like, yes, here's green, here's white, here's yellow, here's red. And you are in control of everything. And that is subtly putting in their heads, you got their back and you can be trusted to make that deal. So when it comes down to it, you are to be reasoned with. Now we are going to get into some specific negotiation style tactics a little bit later, but first I want to walk you through your first turn. There is a bit of breath holding when it comes to this game. You will have your hand of cards. In the first round, as you know, you'll draw some and keep a certain number. Now in the first round, all you need to focus on is trying to get numbers that are close to each other. This board is completely empty. There is nothing that you know. But you do know that, oh, I need to get some things that are close to each other. Also, be a little bit careful, because 74 is not necessarily next to 75. All right, so you have your cards, you're trying to get something close together. That is when things get a little funky. As you know, the negotiation style in this is anything goes. And if you are closed-minded to think that you can just trade anything in the game for anything in the game, please open your mind up to the possibilities that you can do favors, get them a refill on a drink, do anything to sweeten that pot. But before we get there, you need to understand specifically how the tiles work. Now, the tiles in the game are very, very unique in the way that there is the number that is printed on them, and the number of tiles in the game is that number plus 3. So you can have 2 full tea houses. You can have 2 full photo shops. You can have 1 full antique. And this is where it gets funky. If you do not get some kind of tile on the board within the first round, you are already losing. So what do I mean? As I mentioned, players suffer in this game whenever they try to hold their breath and they try to hold all of these together to try to have as much ammo as possible to make that deal. The tiles in your hand mean a lot less than the tiles on the board. So on that first round, you only need to focus on getting shit that's close together and getting something on the board. Try to use all of your tiles if you can. If they're next to each other, maybe leave a spot open. If you have a spot next to someone else, try to get something a little bit higher so that way you can negotiate a little bit later on, oh, you have a dim sum? It's next to another thing. Do you have a dim sum? So you're opening up the possibilities for more negotiation. You don't want to paint yourself into a corner to the point where you don't have anything to negotiate with and any leg to stand on. Now it's time to talk about negotiation. Negotiation is a tricky thing because if you get too loud, too aggressive, people will shut down on you. So in this game, there are, let's say, 3 negotiation tricks that I'm going to recommend to you that you maybe haven't thought of. Negotiation tactic number 1 is called the fill, aka The Return of Jafar. If you have seen The Return of Jafar or even the movie Bedazzled, you have to be very particular about your wording. You don't want to say things like get, draw, that kind of thing. You want to use the terms in the game like keep. So you got to be very specific about the deals that you make. Let them be vague, you be specific. Now that might help you a little bit morally, and I will recount the story of the Phil in which he asked me if I ever got a certain card that I would give it to him on a future turn. First off, betting stuff for future turns when you have closed information and no one can see it, it is a primo thing to do. Definitely do that. But I didn't keep this. I drew this not once, but twice. And to this day, I still hear about it. So be prepared to piss off your friends and that, oh, if I get the 63, I'll definitely give it to you. But you don't have to keep the 63. Any information that is closed information, the cards you draw, the tiles in your hand, and the money in front of you, you do not have to share that. You can bluff your ass off and tell them anything that you want. Which brings us to negotiation tactic number 2, aka the refusal. Now, I'm not talking about a refusal for you. I'm talking about if you see a deal going down across the table that you don't like, you can pay to make that not happen. I have many times paid or given some kind of information in the game to make a deal not happen because I see the benefit. The person who's trying to make the deal sees the benefit. The person who's trying to get dealed maybe doesn't see it. But that's when you can jump in and be like, this is what they're trying to do. I will pay you $10,000 to not take that deal. Or you point it at the other person. Hey, I see what you're doing. You're making a bad deal. I can make you a better one. You see someone coming out for someone's photo booth, offer them a photo booth and a card. Give them anything. So you want to make sure you try to refuse the deals that you don't like. Just because you are not an active participant in a two-way deal doesn't mean you can't insert yourself in that two-way deal. Which brings us to the final tactic, the best tactic I think there is, and that is the art of the three-way deal. The three-way deal is an evolution of the refusal. Instead of paying someone to not do something, you are now jumping in to help. It's like, oh, I see what you're doing. I'll see what you're doing. Let's say someone is trying to convince another player to do something. That's when you jump in and go, you should do this. And if you do this, I will give you this. But if I help you, you're going to have to help me. Getting 3 people involved will do one of 2 things. 1, it will cause the person who is originally kind of hesitant about the deal to shut down and not take anything, which may benefit you. Or it may give you some kind of conversation at the table to where you are still being involved, and one of those people will think that you did them a favor and you will cash in on that favor later. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the flow of the game. There are 6 rounds. The first 2 rounds should be going super quick. You find things close together, you're getting tiles on the board. On the 3rd round, that's when the negotiations really start to happen. So you need to be patient. You need to maybe take a lesser deal up front and then later cash it in for a better deal once you've built some good graces. Now, let's take a look on the board specifically about what I'm talking about, because you will lose a lot of money if you do not get some shit on that board as soon as possible. So here we have a situation that you will come across a lot. There's two people deadlocked. This right here is a non-issue. This was probably put down earlier in the game to try to get something, and then it got closed off. And it's okay that it got closed off because that building is getting them $10,000 per turn regardless. So he got that down. If you get that down in the first round, that's $60,000 by the course of the game that you get that you could have missed out on. So let's say we're negotiating that piece right there. Now obviously green wants that because they either do have a seafood or they are open up to the possibility of having a seafood. Now, if you give them this, let's say you sell this to them for whatever, and then you come around and then they get it. Fantastic. Now you got to ask during the negotiations, do they have a seafood? Because if they have a seafood, that means you know they're going to be getting that money. But if they don't, that may open up a future opportunity for you to try to get that seafood. Because if you have a full complement of players, there are really only 6 seafoods in here, and that's not a lot. People think that they go for the easier things, which are the 3s and the 4s, not knowing that there are fewer of those tiles in here. So you want to make sure that you know these things. It's a little bit of card counting. The higher number ones, there are a lot more of these tiles in there. So use that to your advantage whenever you're trying to negotiate something of a low number, because someone's going to think that they can go ahead and grab the 3s. They can or they can't, but if you know that, oh, that's the card I can get for them now, maybe I might be able to finagle that a little bit later, let your tropical fish go. Try to understand that every turn there is not a tile on the board, you are losing at least $10,000. And in a game that can have a spread of only a few $100,000, that will go a long way. One last little bit of fun in Chinatown is because the money is closed, sometimes you might offer them a card. If you have any type of gamblers at the table, offering them some face down cards could be kind of fun because at the minimum, it's $20,000, but maybe it might be a little bit more. Maybe you might be able to give them a little bit of an incentive of taking a chance to possibly get more if they give you the deal that you want. You really have to open up your mind to these kind of things to win a game of Chinatown. It's going to be ruthless. You're going to get cussed at. You're going to get yelled at. It's going to be lorded over you for all time. Even as recently as 2 weeks ago, it got thrown in my face. But ladies and gentlemen, Chinatown is a simple game where the game comes from your interactions with the people that you know. If you play it with strangers, you might be able to have a little more freedom in how you negotiate because they don't really know who you are or how you are. If it's the first game you play, get started immediately. Take control of the tokens, start figuring out, start talking to people, getting nice, but don't talk too much and do not talk too loudly because people will see that as a sign of aggression and some of the more meek players at the table will shut down. Only use that to your advantage if you're trying to shut down a 3-way deal. That is how you get it done. So remember, to sum up, there is before and after you start playing the game. There is the moment that box is cracked. There are the first few turns where you just got to get stuff on the board. And then once the negotiation really starts hitting the fan, remember the fill, the refusal, and the 3-way deal. Those will be your bread and butter to win a game of Chinatown. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this first How to Win series. If there is a game that you would like to learn how to win, I would love to break it down and give you all of them tips and tactics. Let me know how it goes with your first foray into winning a game of Chinatown. Hope you and yours are well. Peace out. Happy winning.